Good day. This is Jason Moreno, and we are covering today the Quest On Demand Security Guardian solution. We are going to be focusing on findings in this video. So you can see I am logged into the on-demand interface. I'm over in security and dashboard. The reason I'm starting here is there's a couple of places for findings, and you're going to see the highest severity findings listed in the center panel here. Now, I could go out and investigate them, but to be fair, I'd rather work from the filtered view. There's more than just the critical that I'm probably going to want to look at and assess. So I could either click on View All or just come over here to Findings, and it would bring you to the same place. So let's start with filtering. I'm going to go in here and say, let's look at workload is Active Directory. Let's start there first. And I'm going to put another filter in here. And let's just say, let's work with the severity is, critical. So you can clear these by Xing them out. You can hit the clear all if you don't want the filtered view. Just know that if you leave this page compact, the filtered view will show back up. So sometimes you have to remember to hit clear all, and you can always see the filters or collapse this filter view just by clicking on this, and it'll hide it. All right, so let's start in my findings area. First things first, I always like to point out that we have the user guide here. And this is going to be helpful, especially around looking through your findings and figuring out how you want to handle certain results. But let's take a look at the types as well. This is important. So I'm going to say get type, and these are the options. You're going to see hygiene, detected TTP, detected anomaly, and tier 0. So those are the 4 categories. Hygiene are going to be indicators of exposure, potentially something that can be used against your environment that need to be cleaned up. Team needs to decide on how you're going to handle those exposures. Detected TTPs are probably, in my impression, the more concerning of the alerts or the types of detections you're going to get. What that could be indicating with a TTP is that there is some type of activity we're gathering from your domain controllers, your Entra connection, and gathering its logs that looks really, really like an attack. So I usually like to explain it this way. If you see a TTP, there's one of 2 things that's possibly going on. In a good environment, it's an administrator or somebody using usually a privileged account or something like that, doing something that looks like an attack. A good example, it's just easy to focus on since we all know how important the Active Directory database is, and that's down here somewhere, one of these findings that I'll end up coming across. If somebody was using, say, ntdsutil.exe and simply just mounting and snapping the database, and they work with your admin team, or they're a backup operator from your disaster recovery team, that's fine. I still question why they would be using that method to back up the database. However, it can look very suspicious because this is exactly how an attacker would get in and take a snap after they have gained lateral movement into a privileged Active Directory object, and they want to steal your database. I could do it through PowerShell. I could do it through command line, and a lot of products out there that detect unusual behavior might not pick those up depending on your solution. Detected anomaly, you're going to see a lot around possibly Entra. A good example of that is a high amount of attempts to brute force a password for one of your legitimate users in Entra, whether it be customer cloud account only, or if they're a user account that is being synchronized from on-prem. In any event, it's anomalous. It's something that you really need to look at. It doesn't always mean that it's harmless, but it is possibly something you're going to want to investigate and take a closer look on. Tier 0 is just that. It's a tier 0 object, whether it be in the cloud, in Entra's environment, or tier 0 objects that are in Active Directory on-prem. So hopefully I've now explained all 4 types of threats that we're going to pick up, and I figured no better way to do it than look at the filtered view. Now let's just go ahead and click on a finding. So I'm going to move this over. These are all adjustable, so I can start really reading. That was the thing that I couldn't see before, to see where my examples might be. But these are all really good examples of what I might find within an Active Directory environment. This one I'm going to go to. This one's an easy one. I see this pretty much on every assessment I do, and you're probably staring at it on your own screen. Non-tier 0 accounts can steal password hashes. That's considered a DC sync attack. So what is it? Well, first I'm going to click onto it, and then you can see I see this one account. Well, if you're an administrator like me and you see an MSOL account, what is that? That's the account or service account that synchronizes password hashes with Entra. So you're asking, why is it picked up? Why wasn't it in my tier 0 objects when I was certifying tier 0? And the reason is it's a different name generated. It's not always in somebody's account necessarily if they're not using Entra. So you're not going to always see this in all the findings, but I would tell you any customer that's hybrid using Microsoft's Entra environment for Office 365 at a minimum is probably synchronizing their on-prem Active Directory hashes to the Entra environment. And I can look at additional details. That's what's going to help me find out possibly where this is being stored. It just gives me a good understanding in Active Directory where to look for it. Here's the distinguished name. Now, I can check this box. There's a few objects that light up here. What should I really do with this account? And I'm asking that question to you. What should I do with it, since it's a privileged account. It's not domain admin, but it does have the power to read hashes. I'm going to want to turn this into a tier 0 object, right? There's nothing wrong. And that is covered under the tier 0 objects recording. I'll probably use this as a similar example. So if you're saying, well, I want to know more about that, you can go to the tier 0 objects recording, and I will cover it there. But I'm going to want to make this ultimately a tier 0 object. So our product assesses it as a privileged account, and then I can see other types of possible IOEs and IOCs against this object. Plus, it's just a good governance practice to make sure that you're maintaining an understanding of all the tier 0 objects wherever they lie. So let's take a look at some of the other things here. And I want to be very clear on mute object. It's there. I don't know if I was in a position of running a production environment, if I'd ever really mute any object. If it's a tier 0 object, you can't mute it, just to let you know. This happens not to be, because it's not. It's a non-tier 0 account. It's a regular account with the ability to pass the hash. So if it was tier 0, this would be grayed out. You cannot mute tier 0 objects. So as they come up as findings, you cannot just go, oh yeah, I'm well aware of that domain control. I just don't want any more alerts about it. Well, just certify it as tier 0. In this case, I can mute it if I chose to. By doing so, and by the way, that's up here in the user guide. I'll flip over. I've done this frequently. Muting findings. Mute a finding. To unmute it, you have to go into the list, the indicators page, and that's where you'll unmute it. Once again, I just caution anybody from overly using muting as a way of managing an environment. So we have all the information in our user guide. So if you have additional questions not being answered here, please visit that. Also, I can look at the related activities. So in this case, it's going to be quite limited. It's a demo environment. It's just the MSOL account. It's going to show its activity of every time it's constantly synchronizing passwords. Though I do want to point out, it brought me to the audit tab. And just for those folks that don't see the audit tab on the left-hand side, you're going to see it under security in a future release coming soon. So if it's under security, it's probably showing up here under auditing. So this is just going to show me all the times that our on-prem detection and machine learning has picked up all of the irregular domain replication events. So in this case, it should be this account constantly replicating, and as you can see, it is. So it's going to be pretty extensive, and it's why you want to certify it as tier 0 and protect it. So I will cover that as well. And this screen here, just so that you understand, you can decide, you know what, I don't need to see it. I know it's going to be an irregular amount of domain replications. You might want to look at different settings to filter out the noise, and we allow our customers to do that just by unchecking these. Okay, so this hopefully makes it easier. And while I'm here, I'm just going to also show you, I can edit the layout. So I can add columns, take away columns. I can even decide how I want to see it. Is it a chart and a grid? Is it the donut, or do I do it by a horizontal bar? And do I group based on the following objectives? Okay. Let us go back. So I'm going to come to security and then go back to my findings. And here it is. So what else could I do? I can look at the assessment when it was picked up by Security Guardian. Okay. So if this was something that I recently received an alert on, I wouldn't see this history here like I do. Since this is a demo environment, I'm not adjusting it constantly. Any other vulnerabilities that were picked up with this assessment? So what is it doing? It's running credential access, and it has detected a non-tier 0 account for the MSOL, which is listed here. But if there were others, they would be listed here as well. And we make it easy to understand why we are asking you to look at this activity and be suspicious of it. So what is it? What to find? What domain is it happening? You might have multiple. And then, of course, what's the risk? If I don't modify this, what happens? Well, in a real environment, I'm obviously going to want to keep my MSOL account. So I would go ahead and first certify it tier 0, then protect it, put a protection template on it. And then over here, it will drop out of the assessment because it won't be seen any longer as a non-tier 0 account. It'll be a tier 0 account. So it will not alert on this anymore in the findings once I do that. Just while I'm here, where did it get picked up from? You notice I'm in the assessments tab under Security Guardian. Now I'm on discoveries just by clicking this. It's in credential access, and it's one of the items that is listed along the side here, right here. And I will be covering assessments in a separate video, but I wanted you to understand this is why I picked it up. It was in the scan for the Active Directory assessment. Let's go back to my findings. Basically, I'm going to take each one and I'm going to figure out in my environment, what do these things mean to me? So if I was looking at the next one, managed and group managed service accounts that have not cycled their passwords recently, well, that's a problem, right? So if I have an actual GMSA account and it's not cycling its passwords, I'm probably going to want to figure out why, what happened, right? So that's the point of using a solution like this. And basically, right, it's saying that the password, we're telling you, the reason that prevented the managed service account from updating the password, the default 30 days should be investigated, such as verifying if the attribute is set to anything greater than 30 days on that account. Okay, so we're giving you helpful information that should be able to offer up a way to fix these things pretty easily without necessarily knowing everything that you might be looking at. I definitely would recommend going back to the team and talking to them about this if this is happening for this service count. Why is it just this particular one? Take a look at it. Somebody had changed a setting for a reason. As always, good best practice is not to do anything out of haste and to always go back and, have a plan in place to do this on a change night, make sure it doesn't negatively impact environments and so on. I can also look at the history. And so you'll see when it first found it, all the way up till the fact that it keeps getting picked up in subsequent scans and sending me information about it existing to begin with. So keep that in mind. All of the history is here as well under findings. Now, if I decided to take this time and just say I find something in here I wanted to dismiss, I'm not going to go through all the findings here. I could dismiss that finding, like I said before. It won't be displayed again until there's a new occurrence. Unless the finding is muted, it will be raised for new objects. So keep that in mind. I could say this time around, I don't want to be notified, but the only effective way is to mute the finding if I don't ever want to be notified. Once again, I find that dangerous because I picked something like DNS admins group contains members. Well, what if another account showed up? I would never see that if I mute the finding, but I can dismiss it for at least the time being until the next scheduled assessment runs. So just a little bit under the covers of how you go through your findings. And hopefully this was not just helpful, but informational as well. This is why customers come to us for products like this, is to help make it an easier process to clean up their environments, harden them against attacks. I want to thank you for joining me for this video, and stay tuned. There will be more.